come from you.
Welcome to your next door neighbor. This episode is about,
Nabor Prado, our friend.
and how do you know our friend Mr. Prado?
Well, he is now the executive chef at Hugo's, but at the time he was the chef, or maybe even a cook at Hugo's. And it was the early 90s. I needed food for my customers. I was working as a waiter at Hugo's, and that's how I came to know him.
Well, it's a great story. Not only the story about him migrating from Mexico to the United States and becoming a U.S. citizen, but how he learned English, and also the heartbreaking story about his father. And I hope you watch the episode and enjoy the whole story. And thanks for watching.
Of Nabor Prado.
My name is Nabor Prado, and I was born in Mexico in a little town of Michoacán named Cuameo Grande, municipio de Cotija de la Paz, Michoacán.
What does that mean?
That's the whole town. That's the name of the town that I was born.
Does it mean something in English?
Blessed are you and everything that you do.
It means every small town depends on a bigger town to get benefits from the state, from the government. So I always have like the big brother. And that's for the small town. That's what means municipio, like they have a big brother to help whatever they need. That's what they go to.
Okay, so for our English-speaking listeners, could you repeat that in Spanish?
That was in Spanish.
I know the name of the town, though. Again, in Spanish.
The name of the town,
Yeah.
Cuameo Grande, municipio de Cotija de la Paz, Michoacán.
Well,
You asked
to
me to name everything on, right?
That's
so
right.
that's what you got.
You know what? It sounds like the name is bigger than the town.
I named two different towns.
So how big was the town?
When I was born,
Yeah.
it was only 100 families, like 100 houses, and that was it. I mean, right now it's probably about 30 they live in that small town. Everybody else moved to the States, and they're here, but they go every time they want. I mean, we usually go every year or twice a year, depending on how you feel. But we all growing the town to a better place to live for everybody else in town.
And is it a farming community?
It's mostly a farming
And
community.
where is it?
In Michoacán, Mexico. It's in the south of the state of Michoacán.
And Michoacán is along the ocean, right?
Yes, it is along the ocean.
Right. So how far were you from the ocean?
About 2 hours, maybe. 40 hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours.
And where were your parents from? Were they from that town?
They were from the town. Two different towns, but the same area. Not too far away. It was only about 30 minutes away.
So did
Where
you
my
refer
mother
to
was
them-
born.
Did you refer to them as towns, or were they villages, really?
They're ranchos, what we call ranchos, like rancheria. Rancheria means, little villages. Not a whole city. It's a big city.
Right.
But that's what we call small towns.
And what did your father do?
He was a farmer. We had cattle to sustain ourselves. We used to milk the cows early in the morning, feed them, and milk them. And that's what we make a living. I mean, we had pigs, cows, and in a store, and a little mini store that we used to sell all kind of stuff, all the stuff that people will need in the town. They will come to us and get it from us. Milk, sodas.
So, and was your mom involved in all of this too?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the only child, the only people involved in the whole thing. It was me, my mom, and my dad.
That's pretty unusual for
Well,
considering the genetics of your family to have one child.
Yeah,
They
I
see you
think
and say enough is
something
enough.
happened when I was born that stopped the whole factory.
Garage closed.
Yeah, everything was shut down after me.
So your grandmother was around, right?
My grandma was around. We shared the same house because my father, my grandpa, and my grandma, they had a big house. But my father, being the younger, they got a piece of the land on the same on the same place that my grandpa house was. So my dad built a house next to my grandpa and my grandma's house. So I used to. That was the whole. That's what I used to hang out and live.
And your grandmother, I know from things you've told me in the past, had lots of remedies and.
That's how they take care of themselves. Remedies, plants. They knew every plant in the wild. They had to cure cough, fever, pain, you name it. They had a remedy for everything.
Now, was this your grandmother
Including,
in particular, or was it everybody in the village?
I think everybody in the village. I mean, doctor is like 3 hours away. If something happened,
So they
you
just
don't run
shared
to.
the knowledge of the earth then.
Yeah, that's how the people back then they take care of themselves. The herbs and whatever they use.
I think
That
lots
was
of
their
people
medicine.
Still do it.
Oh
We
yeah.
just don't do it here anymore.
No, they don't. Yeah, exactly, they don't do it here, but over there, I mean, they still do it. To this day, I mean, you find all that kind of stuff in the market if you want to do it. But some
And
people
did
they
you-
go this way.
Did you spend a lot of time with your grandmother?
Yeah, when I was little till I was 13, I was there.
And
then
she would show you how to.
she would show me how to cook, how to do things, small things. Back then, you don't really pay attention, but then later in life, you kind of remember all those things that they told you because when you're a kid, you just want to play. You don't really care about anything else. Yeah, play and eat. But yeah, grandma was she was a really wise woman.
Were there a lot of kids to play with in your area, or were you? Was it a big distance?
Because at my grandma's house, all the cousin will come into my grandma, because she always had hot chocolate and pan, bread, sweet bread. In the morning, a pot of coffee and a pot of chocolate.
Did she
and,
make the bread?
No, we used to sell that on our store,
Yeah.
but she will get the bread from us, but she will make the chocolate or coffee. She will do her own blend of coffees by toasting the coffee and grinding the coffee and making the coffee. So that will taste much
Beside-
better than anything on the store.
Besides the animals, did your dad and mom grow any crops?
Oh yeah, corn, beans, pumpkins, wherever the land allows to do, depending on the year, depending on the time of year. Because with the tomatoes and our garden in our house, radishes, cilantros, all the stuff that is commonly used in a Mexican cooking. So that's what we used to have it all. Whatever you need.
Is this land still in your family?
I still own the land. We have the land.
So you
Yeah.
own it.
Yes. You still have it. It's
Wow.
there. So whenever I retire, know where you can find me.
So okay, so 13, you've learned a lot of stuff from your grandma. I mean, how'd you get here? I mean, what?
Well, not only my
It
grandma.
sounds like it was the life. Why'd you want to leave it?
Well, it's a life. It's a life that I miss, and it's a life that I want to go back to. Because whenever I go to Mexico, it's like, why am I going back? Because over there, people live happy. They're happy. They always have a smile. They don't carry this. This runs your life in the States. You wake up, the first thing you see is the watch. The last time you see before you go to bed is the watch. Over there, you don't really care about time. You just let it go. And that's how you. It's a little different.
So explain that to me. So as somebody who's grown up and is totally ingrained in this system of looking at your watch, so what is the rhythm of life for the people in those villages? The sun comes up and
The sun comes up, and you decide what to do. Do you want to work? You want to go to work? You want to take care of your animals in fields, or you just want to stay home and hang out, or go to the city and watch and buy whatever you need for the rest of the week, or however you do it. It's not a stressful life. It's not something that I had to go to work. I had to do this. Like, everybody's independent on their own stuff that they do, because there's nobody. They don't work for anybody else, or they don't work for somebody else. They work for themselves. I mean, whatever you do is for you and your family.
When you're milking cows, was that to be sold, the milk, or what did you?
We sold the milk. We give away milk. We make cheese with the milk. We sell the cheese. yeah, so that was the milk process. You do so many things with milk that there is mostly use and sale, and yeah,
Did you ever make butter?
we make butter.
Did you churn it yourselves, or
Well, we use a different method
oh,
than the turn-in thing.
yeah?
We did sour cream, milk, sour milk, cheese, different types of cheeses, soft, hard, aged, fresh.
So, in the 100 people that were in the village or the two villages,
Mhm.
how many of them were you related to?
Ooh,
Good question.
a 3% of the family,
How many?
like 3%. Well, there was a different
30%?
families. Yeah,
30%.
30%.
Yeah, that's
Because
fascinating.
my grandpa had 5 kids and 1 daughter. She never got married, but my other 5 uncles, they all have families, and they all have cousins, and sons, and the family was big.
Right.
They were not fit in this house. So there was a lot of people.
So, as you said to Patrick before, you at 13 you did what?
I went to school. I used to go and feed the cows, milk the cows. By 7 o'clock, I was back in the house, have something for breakfast, and go to school.
What was a breakfast like?
My favorite breakfast was a gansito, which is a Mexican Twinkie covered with chocolate and strawberry jam inside, and I had whipped cream in it. That was my and a Coca-Cola. That was my favorite breakfast. So my mom find
There was
out.
no governance there.
So my mom find out what I was eating because my tooth was getting messed up. It's like, why are we taking you to the dentist so early in life? So she find out what I was eating, and she teach me how to do the basic stuff, breakfast, eggs, quesadillas or enchiladas, or how to cook beans and rice, that kind of stuff.
So your mom taught you that.
Yeah, because she didn't want me to eat candy in the morning, first thing in the morning. So yeah,
You're 13 years old.
I'm 13 years old, and
What-
I'm in the kitchen.
Oh, you're in the kitchen. Go ahead.
Yeah, which is amazing considering you're still in the kitchen.
I'm still. I'm 48. I'm still in the damn kitchen.
All right, but we'll get there. But I thought
We still have to figure out how he got from there to here. Sorry,
What
didn't
did-
mean to interrupt you.
When did you start leaving? When did you leave to come to the United States? When
I
you
was
were
14.
Okay, so let's go to that. So you're 14 now.
I was-
What made you? What was the reason you?
Well, I was coming to go to school. I was going to go to school. My parents sent me because it's like, okay, maybe you should move to the States and go to school. We'll send you money, and that was the plan.
Oh, but they're not going to send a 14-year-old into the States. Were they going to send you to a cousin or?
Yeah, uncle.
Uncle?
My mom's sister and my uncle. That's where I came to the house
And where
for
where
4
was that?
years. Orange County, Santa Ana, and then everything changed. I got a job, a few weeks later that I moved in, as in Orange County Fairgrounds, in a horse ranch, dealing with horses.
So what happened to school?
Everything changed when I got my first check. I forgot about the school. I was 14 years old. I had a job which is like, okay, it's not really legal, but I was paying cash. I was getting cash. It was like $250 for a week. That was a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And I told my dad, well, instead of you sending me money, I'm gonna send you money because I got a job. Obviously, they didn't take it well, but that was my decision. I was here; they were over there, so that changed the whole thing.
Had you signed up for school
I went like 3 days.
and there was no truant officer looking for you or anything like that?
The
Or-
police?
Trump
Trump wasn't around looking.
Well, Trump wasn't around back then. Obviously, nobody came and looked for me, and so I was like, okay. And that was on the break time you take a little break from classes, and where I was living, it was like 2 blocks away. I just walk away.
But the
walk
message
away.
must have gotten home that you were now working in the United States and not studying in the United States.
Yes, well, that's what I told my dad. It's like, instead of you sending me money, I'm gonna send you money because I have a job.
And what did they think?
They didn't take it well. I mean, that was not the plan. But I was here, they were there. I mean, they were not gonna do anything about it. I was like, okay, I'm screwed the rest of my life. I'm gonna keep working.
What was your job?
Grooming horses, training horses, taking them out for a walk, a spin, or whatever the horse needed. Had to groom my horses, had to keep it clean, keep it on shape. That was my job. I did that for 4 years.
Was that thoroughbreds?
That was jumping horses.
At the fairgrounds, they were show horses, right?
Yes.
What does that mean, show horses?
Well, they put shows on for people.
They put on shows. I mean, they jump. They have a course, and we used to go all over California. I mean, we spent a week in Sacramento, San Francisco. We used to travel a lot. Wherever the show is, I mean, we used to go there with a whole bunch of horses in a trailer.
And who were you working for?
Southwest Farms.
Under the table.
That's how mostly the people working that ranch got paid. Nobody complained till this day.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, Uncle Sam. Yeah, so that was good.
You worked for 4 years there.
Mm-hmm.
Did your status rise as you worked there? Because you're a good worker, I would think. That,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, you schedule change. You start by cleaning the staples and do that kind of stuff, and then by time, depending on how good you train the horses, how good you get to the horses, you start moving up by going to the shows, going to other states, to other cities, and show up your horses, and that's how you climb the ladder.
so you were from a small town.
I'm from a small
So
town.
you get to the United States where everything's bigger, right? That's
Yeah.
what I hear people say all the time. Everything's so big.
Oh yeah,
It's,
everything.
it's certainly different.
The first thing you see is the lights,
The lights.
the bright lights of the city. Yeah, because the lights are different. The illumination of any city is totally different than here.
And people are bigger,
Yeah,
you know,
wider.
wider. Yeah, I was trying to be nice, but they're wider for sure. Now you're traveling around the United States doing these shows. What was your impression of the United States as you traveled to these different cities?
Well, I liked it. I mean, it was new for me. I mean, for 4 years. I mean, coming from a small town, I mean, that was exciting to me to know other cities, to other places. That was always good. You knew more people, you knew more places. You have things to tell. So.
And
it
how
was
did you
nice.
start learning English? One word at a time?
There was people there working with us, and a show. What was the name of that show? Mark and Brian on
Mark and Brian.
KLOS.
KLOS. I used to listen. I don't know, but somehow I was listening to them, even when I didn't speak any
So
English.
they don't even know it, but they were actually English teachers.
They were on the radio for 20-something years, and
They were huge.
and I was like bummed out when they left. But by listening to that station, like, I think I got a lot of English too, and by talking by the other people around me. But yeah, until they left, I listened to that station almost every day in the morning.
During the 4 years, did you get home at all, or did you stay did you go home and visit?
After 4 years, I went for a few weeks, and then I came back, and I went back again. Yeah, I was going back and forth.
Was that rough going back and forth?
No. It's something that I'm excited to every time I go.
Was it rough with the border?
No, because I got my work permit when I was in '96 by Ronald Reagan that did the amnesty, so I was able to.
In 96,
No,
you
that was
mean
in
86.
86,
Right, right.
I'm sorry.
86.
86. By 96, I was American citizen, so right.
Yeah. And I think
By
that was the last amnesty, wasn't
That
it?
was the last amnesty.
We need
80
Ronald Reagan back
86.
for at least a day.
Yeah, a few days. A few days.
Okay, a few days.
Or somebody like
Give
Ronald
him
Reagan.
some time to get it
Yeah.
arranged, but we could use
Yeah.
another amnesty, right?
Right. So in '82, in '86, I got my papers, like green card, we call it.
And what did you do then? Did you stay there or did you move on?
No, I went to Mexico because I
Right.
already have my papers to travel. So I went to Mexico twice. I came back. The second time I went to Mexico, I came back to Los Angeles because I got a promise by one of my cousins that I was going to get a job on his place, the place that he was working. And then a few days later, I found out that that was not going to happen. Then Tony Prado called me one day, you want to be a dishwasher? I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything. So sure, I go and wash dishes. And he was this chef at Hugo's back then. And that's how I got to Hugo's.
What year was that?
89?
So Tony Prado was your cousin or
Uncle.
He's your uncle. And tell us about the Prado family and its cooking history in Los Angeles.
Oh my God. I think they were the first people from our family to be in the kitchens in LA. From our family, the Prado family. It was like every Prado in every restaurant in LA, including the Ivy, the Cha Cha Cha, the El Prado restaurant. So they're all over the place. Bamboo restaurant, to name and others. I mean, there's a bunch of restaurants. They have Prado family owned by. On this day and age, I mean, they're owned by Prados.
And why is the Prado family? What's the food connection between all the Prados?
I think we all grow up loving food, seeing our grandmas, our mothers cooking. I mean,
Watching your teeth fall out.
it's that too. So it had to do with that, and I think that one of the first Prado families. I think his name is Jose Prado. He used to work in the Ivy. He opened the door for so many people that came from that town to work in restaurants, to work in the Ivy restaurant, which is a big restaurant in Rodeo Drive.
The history of America is that the immigration is that there's a member who comes like the first one, and then the rest of the family.
Everybody else
So
follow.
explain the process with the Prado family. So Jose was the first one. He would take people in.
He will take people in, and then when they have enough Prados in one place, they probably, you should go to this other restaurant and apply over there, and there you go. There's another Prado in the other restaurant across the street, and that's how we got to place, because before the restaurant or the restaurants, the work was on the fields. People came to work on the fields, on strawberry fields, orange, all that kind of harvest. That was the job.
And that's really
And
hard work.
that is still a job.
That's still a job.
And that was Cesar Chavez who fought for the rights for those.
Because they used to. I remember my dad coming into the States for 6 months. They used to come and do that run for 6 months and go back to Mexico, and he'd do that for several years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how they had visas or whatever the paperwork they needed. They came for 6 months and work 6 months and go back to Mexico. Go and come back the next year.
Do you know, did he always go to the same farm, or did he?
The far as I know, yes.
And what was it that he was harvesting?
Strawberries.
That seems like back-breaking work. You're on your knees?
Neat. Yeah, he was always complaining about that. That was the main reason he was having issues with his knees, because you're on your knees all day, and because the water, the moisture of the ground and the heat, everything has to do with that. Yeah.
So you come up and get a job in the kitchen at Hugo's.
Hugo's as a dishwasher, but I used to wash dishes and see what other people was doing, because that was exciting to work in a kitchen. It's like, oh my God, that was like mind blowing for me, because you see other people doing a different type of food that you never see or ate before, because Mexican cooking is totally different. And I used to wash dishes as fast as I could, and then when I had a little break, I used to peek inside the kitchen, see what they were doing. And there was a guy from Nayarit. I don't remember his name. He used to call me in. Hey, come here. I'm gonna show you something. He would show me one sandwich at a time. He was the first guy on the line, and he would teach me how to do the. They used to have a sandwich with sausage and roasted red peppers and mustard, Creole mustard, and French bread. And he teach me that for the whole day whenever I had a chance. So I learned that. The second day, he will teach me how to do a chicken sandwich or a tuna sandwich. So till I learn all the sandwiches. And one time Tony came into the kitchen. It's like, get out of the kitchen. You're not gonna be a cook. Go wash dishes. So, but I used to watch them cook all the time. And I did the same thing with the prep guys by helping.
So
Prepping.
This is all happening at the only Hugo's at the time on Santa Monica Boulevard.
A401
Just-
Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah, just east of
Yeah.
La Cienega there.
And-
famous for just about everybody. has
Famous
made
by
their
the
way
pasta
in there.
mama make the place famous, and the pumpkin pancakes. And I did that for about 6 months. I mean, working as a dishwasher, but learning whenever I could how to make pasta, how to prep, and then I moved to prepping. So I knew a little bit of prepping, and then I was helping the pasta guy we used to make the pasta in that restaurant for the whole restaurant because we only have one restaurant. So I was doing the same thing. So then I had a few days as a prep and a few days making pasta because the pasta guy moved into the kitchen. So
Did Tony bless you for this activity?
in his own way, yes.
I need somebody to do it. Get in there now.
But he must have seen that you were a good worker.
Oh yeah, that's why I move around. I mean, that's the only way you move around. Any
You need
job
to have
you do.
intention, and they see
Yeah,
the intention.
if you
right?
see that, yeah, obviously that's what happened. And then I moved. And then when I was doing pasta, I had enough time to go and see the drink maker how to make drinks. So then I got a few days as a pasta maker and a few days as a drink maker. And then when I was a drink maker, I was watching the Boss Boys how they do their job, and I learned that process. And I had a few days as a drink maker and a few days in the floor bussing tables. So I did that for a year, maybe a year and a half, and then an accident happened in the kitchen. One of the cooks got into a fight with another cook on the middle of the rush, and both of them got sent home. And what do? They called me from the floor to the kitchen because I knew how to cook, how to make everything, and that's how I landed in the kitchen by an
Prepared
accident.
for that moment of luck.
Yeah.
But you
Anyway.
worked at night, right? Isn't that what you started?
No, I started at day during the daytime.
But
Then
wait,
I worked
but
nights.
wait a minute. So you got yourself to the kitchen right then and there.
Mhm.
Did all other duties fall away at that point, or were you still like now 2 days in the kitchen, 2 days drinks, 2 days on the floor, or did they just say this is where you need to be?
Well, I think for the first 2 weeks, I was in the kitchen and I was on the salad bar, which is the drink maker station, because we had the drink maker, the coffees and cappuccinos, and then we had a salad bar. I was still doing that for 2 days a week, I believe. We had like 12 different salads. We have different sandwiches in the salad bar. So I was taking care of that, and I was working on the kitchen a few days too.
And how old were you when this was all happened? Where were you? You're
19, 20, 20,
okay.
21 maybe, something like that.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, 91 maybe, the latest. And then another accident happened, which everybody was kicked out of the kitchen. Everybody was gone, and I was the only one standing in the kitchen. And I asked Darren and Brian, why am I here? Because you're the only one who knows how to do everything, and we're gonna hire new people, and you're gonna teach everybody how to do their job.
And who were the people you just mentioned?
Daryl and Brian used to work for Tom Kaplan and Cafe Latte. So
And Brian was the chef, right? If I think I remember correctly.
he was a chef on Cafe Latte. And he worked with us and Hugo's in that particular time for about a few months.
When you started working at Hugo's, the owner was Terry Kaplan.
Correct.
He has a famous story he told about seeing you sweeping up the parking lot.
Yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Well, I remember the first time I met Terry. I was still dishwashing. I was sweeping the parking lot, and he came in and say, "Well, if the parking lot is not clean, the inside is not." So he's saying that like the parking lot has to be clean in order to have a clean restaurant inside. So that words they always stick with me, and I remember exactly where I was out in the parking lot and when he was walking and say that.
So Hugo's now has the cleanest parking lot
Uh,
of all restaurants.
it is it is clean.
What was it like working for him?
Well, when I got to Hugo's, Tom was Terry Kaplan was already retired. He was not there anymore. He used to come once in a while, but not to spend a lot of time in it. Most of the time was Bob who was there most of the time.
All right, so you were the last man standing. You became
Where to from there?
Brian and Darren said, "Let's do it." So what happened?
Well, I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. I was never in charge of our kitchen. I was never in charge of anybody, to be honest. And I was like afraid, but I was like, okay, if it's other people doing it, I can do it. And we hire more people, and I start training everybody and what to do the job, and to train everybody in each position. Well, with the help of Darren and Brian, because they were there at that time.
When it was you three, were you able to handle the crush that would come in on the weekends?
Yes, I think the me working in that position sealed the point of me getting the kitchen manager's job, because I was good on it.
Well, obviously, you went from sweeping the parking lot to being the chef.
To being the chef like that, and
well, how long was it really? It wasn't a snap of the finger.
Well, maybe in about a year long. The whole process of teaching and other people.
And how about the education of it, of learning how to make the food?
Well, back then there was no YouTube, no internet, none of that stuff. So my best friend was the library, on Vermont and Santa Monica. I used to stop by every time I need to learn something. So the first books I grabbed was the basic cooking of. It was like the basics of cooking. So from page 1 to page 900, it teaches you everything about how to grab a knife, how to sharpen a knife, and how to dice a vegetable, and that's how I learned. And those cassette players, the what's the name of those?
VHS?
Yes, sadly.
Videos, yeah.
Videos. That was
Blockbuster. You used to be able to get them at Blockbuster. But wait a minute, let's back up here. Because at 14, you decided you were going to take the job, at the equestrian place, the was fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds and Costa Mesa.
Right. And you skipped school, so you got the books. Where did you pick up reading along the way there?
Well, in Mexico, I used to go to school.
Yeah, but it's Spanish, right?
Spanish.
Did you pick the books up here in Spanish? Or did you
No, they were only in English. They were in English.
And so, had you bridged that?
Translate the dictionary and the library. If I didn't understand something, I was trying to translate, trying to make sense of the whole thing, of the whole process. Sometimes you don't need to understand every single word, but if you understand the sentence, then you start understanding the whole.
So you
book.
self-educated.
I self-educated myself. I believe 90%. Yeah.
That's
Sounds
phenomenal.
crazy, but yeah. That's how
Okay,
we
so your
get.
mom and your dad are still back in Mexico.
My mom.
Your dad passes away.
He disappeared in 88, 89.
And what happened
He
there?
came to the States because I was in the process to have him the green card, and when he went to Mexico, back to Mexico, he never made it to the house. We didn't really know what happened on the road or on the process of going back.
So you don't know. You actually don't know the fate of your father then.
No. We look for him through police, radio, hospital, you name it. We cannot find it. We cannot find any trace of my father. So
Wow,
that's how that ends.
That's a stone to carry.
Yeah, it is. It is a heavy.
Were you
stone
close to your
carry.
dad?
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, it was my dad. I mean,
Yeah,
for
your
the
dad,
first.
your only child.
I was the only child. We used to do a lot of things together, and yeah, of course,
What do you think
Yes.
happened?
that no idea what happens. I mean, you can think of a million things, but to be honest, I have no idea. No idea what happens.
But on his way back to home, where he didn't make it to the door, it wasn't some off the beaten path to get home. It was just a matter of, taking the train, taking the bus, taking the plane.
Taking the bus, taking the train. Yeah, that was something that he did so many times before. It was not the first time. I mean, he did that like I said, when he was coming to work to the States. I mean, he was here for 6 months and go back home without a hinge, without a problem. So, yeah, you don't know. He was not doing anything different than any other time.
And where were you working when that happened?
I was working on the horses. I was on the
So
ranch.
it happened that long ago.
Yeah.
So then, did you go through any grieving process for this, or because I mean, it's like you're not really actually sure of the fate.
No, you can't really
So
do
you're
anything.
waiting every day for him to knock on the door and go, I got knocked unconscious and I've been
Sometimes
in an
you
alternate reality for the last.
sometimes
20
you
years.
walk into the street or you go to a place and you turn away, you turn around and say, you think that that's going to be your dad, or even sometimes with the phone rings in the house is like, and because that phone is only people from Mexico. They call me. It's like, oh, is that going to be something?
And how'd your mom deal with this?
She was really brave. She took it obviously not too good, but she handled it. She's a strong woman. She was able to handle. Yeah, because I went to Mexico when we found out he didn't made it. So a few weeks later, I went to Mexico, but to see my mom. But she was not. She was okay. She was handling like a strong woman. So
Wow, is all I can say to that.
yeah.
At Hugo's, when did you start doing the specials? When you started creating the specials?
After Darren and Brian left, I had a little bit more knowledge. I had to do the specials, had to write the specials. And we used to do it every week, every Friday. I used to go to Tom's office and write the specials. We didn't have a chef type computer like we do now, that we had to put every single ingredient in, and there was something on paper that we write in the morning, and 2 hours later the specials were running. But it was a totally different process back then.
How many specials were there a week? Was it weekly?
Weekly, we did about 4 or 5 specials every week.
And you were responsible for now not only kitchen management, chef at Hugo's, teaching yourself English, to teach yourself to cook. You had to be the creative director for whatever the specials were at Hugo's.
Correct.
And did you see this as your path, or at any point did you think, well, I should be a fireman, or I should be...
No, because I never doubted. I love to do it. I mean, I think that I put all this passion into food because that's what I want to do. That's why I went to all the troubles by sleeping late, getting books, reading books, watching videos about cooking or other stuff, because that's what I felt that I fit doing, that kind of stuff, making other people happy by eating my food, and that was the reward, that was the compliment to all the hard work. So no matter what I did, I mean, that was always in my head. It's like the expression on people's face when they eat my food.
And you even dream food, right? Making food.
That was funny because sometimes you go to bed, you're thinking about something, and you're thinking about recipe or how to make things work, because we started doing vegan food and gluten-free food before anybody else in LA, and to me that was exciting because it was not going to the market and buy gluten-free flour, because that was not available. You have to make your own. So you, in a way, you have to become a chemist instead of a chef. You're a doctor at chemics and science all together. It's not just not being a chef. So the next step was going to the library and get some other types of books, not only about cooking, but how to combine ingredients and make it work, and how ingredients work by themselves, understanding every single ingredient first, and then complement into another ingredient, or make those two ingredients work together. And that's how gluten-free is a little tricky in vegan food.
What inspired the gluten-free vegan? Because you were ahead of the curve on that one.
I think back then it was a customer that they came in for the first time at Hugo's, and we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what Celix was, or what gluten-free people. There was not that many back then. So again, going to the library, reading about gluten and what that do to human beings. Because back then, I don't think even doctors knew what it was. They knew something was happening to people that eat flour, but they can pick exactly what it was. So I was like, okay, let's try this way. Let's try to make gluten-free flours and gluten-free pancakes and gluten-free other things. And that's how we started doing all the mixes that we did in the restaurant. Because you can buy anything, because it was not in the market.
And I think Hugo's became famous for a famous travel destination for people that were specifically looking for that product. I mean, it turns out that you saw a customer come in, and then you developed the product, and then because all of these people saw
what we were doing.
Destination.
And it's always been a family-oriented restaurant that no matter what kind of diet you are, you can come into Hugo's and eat it as a group, because you might be vegan, somebody might be gluten-free, other people with other different allergies. They can sit at a table and have a great meal, no matter what kind of a diet you are.
So you can go from super skinny to extremely fat at Hugo's. Everything in between.
Everything in between.
Besides the vegan and the gluten-free, what was other changes that you were instrumental in? From like when you started cooking, did they have veal on the menu when you started?
They had veal. I mean, that was eliminated. I mean, we didn't have that the first time we did after me taking over. I mean, maybe a year, 2 years, we changed the menu. We changed the menu very drastically by eliminating the veal eliminating all the heavy sauces that they used to make. We used to make a stocks that they take 40 hours to make. I mean, the process was long. Is how can we make this healthy? How can we make this faster? How can we make this better? And that's what we did by making everything by scratch, by making everything healthy. We didn't use any oil on the soups, on the sauces. We tried to use herbs instead. We tried to use better ingredients by making everything healthier.
And you use your grandmother's teaching to medicinal teachings to in the food.
Yeah, I think about that. I think about my grandma. I think about my mom, what they used to do, how they used to cook. And my mom used to cook. I mean, whenever I go, she's the one cooking. I mean, they didn't have all those fancy bouillons or stocks to make foods. It all depends on your touch and how to add flavor to food with herbs and love. And that's what we do.
So when you go to Mexico, your mom doesn't let you cook?
She's always afraid of cooking, because it's like, oh, what I'm gonna cook for you? Oh, you're not gonna like it. It's like, no, I'm gonna like it. No matter what you do, I'm gonna like it. That's why I'm here.
It's comfort food.
Yes, exactly. It's totally
it's
different.
the only place you can really eat.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Is there a technique that your mother or grandmother used that you have used that wasn't taught in the restaurant, but you brought to the restaurant?
A technique other than do everything with passion and love. I mean, that's the best technique you can use everywhere you go, and for everything you do. If you don't do it with passion, why do it?
What was your mom's specialty?
Huevos and salsa roja. That's eggs and red sauce. It was like an enchilada sauce with a guajillo chile. And then she will fry the egg in a really high temperature oil, so it will become like bubbly and crispy on the outside of the egg, and then she will pour the sauce on top. That was my favorite thing in the morning.
And grandma?
Fried beans. For my grandma, had to be the chocolate and the rice. She used to make a special rice. It was very unique. I tried to do it. I always fail. I don't know if it was the pot that she used, because we use clay pots in town. I don't know if that's what it was, but I was never been able to copycat that recipe. I mean, the flavor. I can use every single ingredient, but the flavor is never the same.
Hugo's is in a pretty interesting part of town. Huge LBGT community.
Right.
Where Hugo's has one of the restaurants. So you come from two small villages in Mexico and you find yourself right in the middle of this community. What are you seeing?
I never see anything different. I didn't really pay attention what other people do or how other people live. I always see people as a human beings, and I don't care if they're what color they are. I don't care what preference they have. That's their own business. I mean, whatever people decide to do.
Them.
The only thing I want to
Be
feed
whoever you're going to be.
Hey,
Just come in.
no
and
matter
eat
what
here.
you do, get fed at Hugo's and be happy.
But the town has changed in the last.
A lot.
How's West Hollywood changed?
It's like every 8-10 years you see a change in people, and you see different faces, different people, different community. So they have changed quite a bit from back then. Now you see more younger people. Back then it was a little bit more middle aged people, a little older. Now it's more younger people. They have moved to the part of the town.
Where do you see food going? What interests you now? What are you?
I'm always looking for something new to do. I'm always want to be in the edge. I always want to do something new. So I don't know. I have a lot of things in mind. I don't know where those ideas are going to take me, but it better be something good. It's going to be something good.
So I know our listeners don't know, but Hugo's, the restaurant that we've brought up, has grown, and you've become responsible for not just one line. You've become responsible for many lines now.
Yes.
Do you find yourself acting like Tony acted with you? Can we say there are like Nabor guys all over Los Angeles now? You putting guys in restaurants?
I think I have. I mean, now we have two restaurants, to Hugo's restaurant, to taco stands. So I have put people in a lot of restaurants, and I also see some of my recipes in another restaurants, because people that have worked for me, they have taken the recipes to other places.
We're not mentioning those places.
We're not mentioning
I've
other places,
seen that too.
but you're doing a good job, buddy. We know who you
Not
are.
mentioning no names.
We're
So
not
do you
mentioning no names.
still spend any time at the line? Because I know you're responsible.
I love working on the line. I go inside the line when somebody called in sick, or whenever I need to go in. I go in with no problem at all. I like to be active. I just love the speed of the whole thing, the whole process on the line. I love it.
I want to go back to your answer I just asked you about your new ideas. I mean, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Is there things? I mean, I know I've been interested in Indian food and other cultures' food, and you've incorporated into food in Hugo's, spices and things of that nature.
Well, it's a little bit of every continent. I mean, the things that I have in mind is food from all over the world, not just Indian or Middle Eastern or Mexican. I have ideas to different types of food, maybe things they're not really people are thinking right now to eat, like or there's not that many places in LA. People totally new food that's what my mind is. What people eat on those villages that they don't have the money to buy things, and they still have a nice healthy life. How do they handle it? How do they do it? That's the stuff that is interesting me.
My gardener said to me that if you eat simple food, it keeps you healthy.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, I'm 48. I still can give any 20-year-old boy a run in the kitchen anytime.
So you've been doing a lot of Indian food, Indian influence food.
Influence.
What do you find interesting about that particular cuisine?
The spices. I mean, the spices are great. The love they have for food. I mean, the respect they have for food. I think that's what had me interested in Indian food.
Is there other cuisines that you're tinkering with that you want to learn more about?
Ethiopian food. I mean,
Explain.
That's a little bit interesting. Something that is, I think, is a really interesting undeveloped. The food that is not really up there, and it's really, really good. Not only, I mean, a health way. I think it's a really healthy food to eat.
And what is it about that interests you?
The way they process meals, the way they eat, the way they make their breads without any I can't say that. Just the simple thing of their food.
I didn't expect you to say Ethiopian.
I did.
Now you know.
You're smarter than
I
me.
was thinking of the continent.
Well, we're talking about simple foods, and I think
Where people are still in touch with the earth
but people are exactly in
and
touch
not
with
your
their
local grocery store.
exactly. So whatever the land gives you, that's what they ends on the plate, and I think that's the important thing about good food.
Asia, which has a lot of population, not just China, but seems to eat noodles and broth and bowls. Have you explored that at all?
Yes, I have. Yes, we did. I mean, like I said, we have explored food from all over the world. I mean, noodles and Asian food, Korean food, Japanese food. I mean, it's good, but it's not something that I really in love with because they process the whole thing a little bit different than other continents, the other places like Ethiopia.
So again, you really threw me for a loop on the Ethiopian food. So we were talking about the breads.
We're talking about the fermented bread. The you don't really need that much to make it. I mean, it's just fermented flour, fermented wheat, or fermented some other crops, and it's really good for you. It's not like all processed bread. So you're not only eating healthy food, but you're helping the earth by doing this kind of food. And I think that's really important. That's what we need to think about a little bit more.
And how much do you think about helping the earth when you're creating new recipes?
Most of the time, I think they're really when we go to the whole process of making the specials. That's always in our minds. How can we help our earth by making the specials and not doing the opposite?
What's the opposite?
By using processed food or processed item, we're trying to use fresh ingredients and grains that are organic and they're not over processed. That's what I mean by doing something for the earth.
So eliminate some of the pollution that's created in the process, the packaging.
Everything that had to do with that.
Where do you think the restaurant industry is going? It's changing.
Well, like I said, it changes. It changes every once in a while. Every 8 years, every 10 years, everything changes. It seems like that's a pattern with life, but you had to change with it. You had to be on top of everything in order to change with the restaurant business and how everything runs around you. You have to just follow the roll and roll with it.
Fascinating. Well, I think we wish upon you all the unknown spices of life, and
herbs.
Let's not leave them out. And that your discoveries take you to places in the world that many of us will enjoy.
Also, that's the whole idea.
Thanks for being on Your Next Door Neighbor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me your story. Tell me where you come from, Yeah, ta 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 ta. Tell me who you loved. Tell me who loved you. Yeah.